My few brave fellow guardsmen that still watch my videos, I present to you another topic of the Star Wars franchise. I submit, this is heresy, but since we're in another universe, you'd need a warrant to arrest me. So this one too is of gigantic starships from the franchise of the Jedi and the Sith, but unlike the other one which focuses on star destroyers of the Galactic Empire and the First Order, this one however is a list of the biggest non-Imperial starships, which doesn't include star destroyers. Okay, I'm kinda sounding like a broken record here, but in case I get attacked for not specifying this, I have to inform you that these ships are both from Canon and Legends, which is as different as an omelette and a fried egg. Let's also make this a bit spicy. Here we will compare their sizes against the basic Imperial Class Star Destroyer, which comes in at 1600 meters, or 1.6 kilometers, or 5,250 feet long, whose feet King Henry I of England. Now let's begin. At the number 10 spot we have the Invincible Class Heavy Cruiser. So if you think that only Darth Sidious had the political will to authorize the creation of gigantic starships, well, think again. The Invincible Class here is built by an interstellar corporate entity called the Corporate Sector Authority, which ruled a sector of space called the Corporate Sector. Yeah, capitalism. The Invincible Class was this cylindrical shaped 2,000 meter long warship. This heavy cruiser was in use with the CSA fleet 3,000 years before the Battle of Yavin, or the start of A New Hope. The ship was armed with 6 missile tubes, 12 turbo laser cannons, 30 quad laser cannons and 6 tractor beam projectors, which makes it a beast of its time. Then number 9 we have the Providence Class Dreadnought. Another corporate baby is the Providence Class Dreadnought, or as it is known in polite company, General Grievous's floating death office. Basically, it's a Dreadnought class warship that the Confederacy of Independent Systems, aka the galaxy's most dysfunctional corporate board meeting, used during the first Clone Wars. This ship comes in 2 models, a cute little 1 kilometer version and the much larger 2 kilometer model. Literally, this ship is what happens when space engineers say, let's build something modular, and then never stop. You want hangars? It's got them. You want turbo lasers? Slap on another dozen. You want the bridge to be so tall it is the main target for the entire enemy fleet? Done. So it started out as a Trade Confederation command ship and it eventually ended up being the Confederacy's flagship of mass destruction. At number 8 we have the Bulwark Class battleship. So this is the Mark III, not the Mark I. This is a 2,500 meter long flying death brig designed by Transgalmec Industries, a company name that sounds suspiciously like someone made it up after 6 drinks with a cease and desist order from Hasbro. Now it was technically built on the bones of an old Techno-Union ship, which is like taking a busted 70s muscle car and turning it into a Mad Max war rig. So it is big, beefy and not here to make friends. Literally it was so heavily armed and armored that it could go toe-to-toe with an Imperial Class Star Destroyer, which is basically the galactic standard of we mean business. However, this is really important. It had a bad reputation for some, let's say quirks. Things like unreliable sensors, questionable electronics, which is always fun when you're operating a warship the size of a small city. So number 7, the Lucrehulk class battleship. This one, which many of us know, is from Clone Wars and was actually originally a freighter designed to haul cargo, droids and probably a few million stale nutrient bars across the galaxy. But then the Trade Federation looked at it and said, you know what this needs? Lasers. Lots of them, and maybe a droid army or 2. It is 3,170 meters wide, which is twice the length of an Imperial Class Star Destroyer and shaped like a giant donut with a big bite taken out of it. Nothing screams hatred than a donut coming back for revenge with turbo lasers, doesn't it? Essentially, the Lucrehulk could carry hundreds of starfighters, also tanks, landing crafts, and those sassy droids which I've grown to miss a lot. And you better believe it when I say it came with turbo lasers, point defense batteries, and shields strong enough to withstand fleet attacks. Then up a notch we have the Raddus, which was an MC-85 star cruiser built by the Mon Calamari shipyards and served as a flagship of General Leia Organa. It was used by the Resistance during its war against the First Order. However, unlike the beefy gun-filled ships we've seen before, the Raddus was weirdly polite for a warship. While most battleships scream pew pew and smell like cordite and testosterone, the Raddus was designed to be accommodating. Its Mon Calamari builders teamed up with the Corellian Engineering Corporation to make the interior more habitable for species of all kind. Well, that's a chip from the budget and efficiency as a warship. formerly known as the Dawn of Tranquility, this massive 3.4-kilometer long metallic fish or dirt-shaped cruiser was undergun, especially for its size. It had a few dozen heavy turbo lasers, some ion cannons and proton torpedoes, but it made up for it with top-tier shields. And when I say top tier, it is top tier. It's the Mon Calamari we're speaking of. Its destruction was seen in that girl boss moment when General Holdo went in full warp speed IED against the Mega Star Destroyer. At the 5th spot we have the Malevolence, which is basically a subjugator class heavy cruiser, which measures nearly 4,845 meters long. That's longer than 4 Venator class Star Destroyers standing in line, in a perfect line. And it wasn't just big, it was obscenely overpowered. It is armed with 2 mega ion cannons cause just one wouldn't make the point clear enough. However, don't let the violence distract you from the real marvel here. Its design. It is literally shaped like some unholy fusion of a space shark and a pterodactyl, with that long beak. Nevertheless, as is tradition with all oversized, overconfident war machines in Star Wars, the Malevolence got wrecked by a lot of plot armor. Then next we come to the Chorus Strona. So imagine someone took a coral reef, force-fed it with steroids, black magic maybe, and some nightmare interstellar fuel and then asked it, "Hey, could you maybe grow into a 10-kilometer long sentient spaceship?" And it said, "Sure, why not?" That's the Chorus Strona. Basically, it is a living spaceship or world ship of the Yuuzhan Vong. It is grown, not built, from something called the Yorick Coral, which is just regular coral from another planet, and also not from the same galaxy. Now instead of building this thing with boring old stuff like steel and electronics, the Yuuzhan Vong planned this coral into the ground and let it feed on everything, rock, smell and even unfortunate wildlife. It has no wires, no buttons, no engines in the traditional sense, and its hull looks like some crusty combination of barnacle-covered stone and fossilized parts. The ship's lights, weapons and even air circulation, all done by squishy, wriggling life forms that live in it in symbiosis. Now we come to the top 3 and we begin this with the Krakana. Now picture this, you're the New Republic and you finally pull yourself together after years of fighting a war against the Empire, a war that you barely won as a rebel alliance. And then also juggling bureaucracy, democracy and pretending the Jedi aren't a public relations hazard. You think, hey, wouldn't it be nice if we had our own gigantic overcompensating murder machine like the Empire's executive class? Because nothing says we've evolved past totalitarianism, like building a 17-kilometer long death boat and casually calling it a Krakana, which basically is just calamari for Kraken. That's like naming your pit bull Snuggles. Now, Krakana wasn't even the first of her kind. She was a proud descendant of a Viscount prototype, the Viscount prototype, which was a modest little 3-kilometer cruiser. So while it was still a bit shorter than the Executor class Superstar Destroyer, the Mon Calamari engineered this Viscount class to actually be better, the Krakana to be more spacious and had more firecrafts to be deployed for space supremacy. Now on the second spot we have the Banu Ras warship. Now if the Chorus Strona of the Yuuzhan Vong is the creepy camper van of space biology, Banu Ras is the 5-star luxury cruise ship built entirely from the same Yorick coral in the same process and had the exact same things, transporting the same species but just 12 times bigger, at least by width, which makes it hundreds of times bigger in total surface area and volume. Nevertheless, it is home sweet home for them after their home was destroyed. It also has its own gravity, weather, probably mucus too, definitely transportation, because can you imagine going from one place to another here? That's like driving from New York to Boston. And then its population density there could make living similar to maybe Hong Kong. It's not a city ship, it's a pulsing, breathing world ship. And the biggest of all is what is called the Centerpoint Station to us laymen, or as the Killiks call it, the creators of this ship, the Kolaralok, which I would roughly translate it into World Puller or Planet Tugger, or maybe why is that moon screaming? So maybe you're drifting through the core worlds, admiring the stars when suddenly you spot something that looks one crossbred a space station with a moon. Yep, that's the Centerpoint Station right there. It is 350 kilometers long, 100 kilometers wide, bigger than the Death Star, and so old it is an artifact which was built around the year 100,000 BBY, which means before the Battle of Yavin. This thing had a tractor beam so strong it could move entire planets. Centerpoint was originally constructed by the Bug people, the Killiks, under the mind-melding guidance of two ancient force-wielding cosmic beings called the Son and the Daughter, or known as the Celestials, which had another one called the Father and Abaleth, the Mother. But you might better remember them as those metaphysical nightmares from Mortis that made Anakin cry and scream. And so with that, we come to the end of this video. If you like this one, then watch this other one too, the one in the end screens. Also do hit that like button to support us if you do like our content, and smash the subscribe button to be a part of Legio Notebook. Till the next time, take care, boys.